Okay, so we'll start to get through a few questions. First up, if we go to Wingy Boxing.
Chris, what's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I want to ask you a question. Well, I want to ask you loads of questions, but I've only got a few. How has the boxing public and media been towards you since the beginning of your career up to now? Have you seen a change from the fans and the supporters? Because you're a divisive character, aren't you? Like Marmite, some people would say.
Am I divisive? I think that's pretty strong. I mean, I thought I was yeah, listen, you know, the beginning of my career, people weren't sure what to make of me, you know. A lot of people were saying I was in it to make a quick buck and then I was just gonna, you know, go on Love Island or whatever, you know, just in and out. But once people started seeing I was serious, you know, I won a lot of fans over. Obviously, I've still got a lot of doubters, a lot of people that, you know, don't believe in what I'm doing and, you know, for whatever reason, don't like me. But I think over the years, you know, I've proven myself. I've made my own path. You know, I always entertain. I always, you know, I always put on a show. I never quit. I never coast. I'm one of those guys. It's always fun to watch me fight. So, you know, as long as I keep doing that, you know, I think boxing is better with me in it than with me without it. And no, I'm not retiring after this fight. That was an April Fool's joke, just in case anyone did.
Do you put pressure on yourself when you say other fighters go in there against like Triple G and Canelo and act scared, and you like the opposite of them, you're going to take it to them? Because when that fight happens, a lot of people will be expecting, right, we want to see that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that a sort of pressure that you're going to have to go forward, or does it depend in?
Of course, any making a statement like that, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, because if you don't do what you say, you become a laughing stock, you become a joke. I understand that, and that's one thing I've never been is a joke or a laughing stock. People know I'm a very serious guy, so you know, people should take what I say seriously. I don't think I've ever said anything in the ring that I've never gone on to go and do or try to do. So that is the plan. That is the game plan. You know, I'm not scared of these guys. A lot of these guys, they go into these fights and they've already lost. The fight's over before they've even got through the ropes. They go in there to survive. And, you know, if you know anything about me, you know, that is, you know, the last thing that's ever, you know, on my mind. I'm in there to devastate, and that's what fighters like GGG and Alvarez. That's what you have to do to be successful against those guys. You know, they're sharks. They smell the fear, and they will take advantage of it. No one's taking advantage of me.
Thank you very much for your time, brother. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Vinny. If we go to Andy from Boxing Social.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Stuff. Quite a simple first one. Why Marcus Morrison?
You know, we needed a comeback fight. We needed a warm up. We needed a solid opponent who was going to give me the rounds and get me ready for a big fight in the summer. And he was the name that was put forward, and I accepted immediately. You know, it's a 10-round fight. I've been out of the ring a long time, and I'm looking forward to getting back in there and showing off everything I've been working on over the last year and a half with Roy Jones Jr.
Chris, you're a heavy favourite heading into this fight, but with Marcus, what dangers does he possess that you might be wary of, that you might have been studying?
Listen, he has 2 hands and 2 gloves, so he's just as dangerous as any other person that gets in a ring. If you underestimate a man, you come unstuck. That's happened It's happened a lot. You've been having a lot of upsets lately, actually. You know, he's a solid guy from what I can see. He's strong, and I've trained very hard for this fight. It's a very important fight for me. I have to win this fight. If I put on a flat performance, or if I don't win, that would be devastating. So this is just as big as a world title fight for me, in my opinion.
Chris, just final one from me. With regards to what's next, you mentioned a big fight in the summer. Looking at the likes of the Andrades, Golovkins, Charlos, I mean, obviously up at super middleweight, you got Canelo, maybe Billy Joe rematch. Who would you like to face next if you could choose?
Golovkin is the end goal for this year, 100%. I've wanted to fight that man for a long time, and now we're in a position to where, as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, we can make that fight this year. But yeah, there's a lot of great fights to be made in the middleweight division. Charlo's a big fight. You know, Royalton Murata, he is the full WBA champion at the moment, so I'm number one contender to fight him. Anybody with a belt, man. Anybody with a belt, anybody with a name. You know, I need to be active. These are my prime years, so I want to fight the best. I want to fight the biggest. And this year is where we start that journey.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy. If we go to Joe from Seconds Out for your 2 questions.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Good. So, as you've just mentioned, you've been very vocal in the past few years about calling out the best in the world, GGG, Canelo, and the other people who Andy's just mentioned. Although you've made a name for yourself respectively, do you think having your father's name will help you land those fights over in America?
No.
Why is that? Do you not think, you know, having that sort of the memories of your father, and then people thinking maybe you're sort of just bring them back to the old times, do you not think that helps you sell the fight?
No.
Respectively? Okay, fair enough. And
these nostalgia names, that doesn't mean shit when you got a guy in there who's trying to take your head off. If you can't fight, you can't fight.
And going into those huge fights, as you just mentioned, GGG is the current goal for you. How would you think your styles match up, and why actually is he the goal for the end of the year?
Triple G is the number one middleweight in the world in terms of, you know, viewing figures, in terms of public. You know, he's the biggest name, and I know I can beat him. I want to be the biggest name in the middleweight division. I want to be the top dog. To be the top dog, you got to beat the top dog. So that fight has to be made. You know, it slipped through my fingers a couple of years back, and I've always regretted that. So you know, we have to make it right.
All right, thank you. Cheers.
Okay, thanks, Joe. If we go to Jonathan Nagyo from Pro Boxing Fans, please.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Genuinely interested to understand sort of the dynamic between you and Roy Jones Jr. What would you say, you know, is the biggest thing you've learned from having him around? And does he ever get in the ring? I mean, he's still active a bit in exhibitions.
Yeah, listen, Roy's more than active. He's in the gym every day. It's unbelievable. Training every day, training, you know, himself, training me. You know, boxing is his life. He can't stop. He doesn't want to stop. You know, and you know, with Roy, being with him over the last year and a half, you know, I'm not going to change as a fighter overnight. I'm 31 years old, but what Roy has changed in me significantly is my mindset, the way I think about the sport, the way I approach fights and sparring sessions. You know, he's a genius, and I've been learning from that genius for over a year now, and I feel like a lot of his creativeness and his mastermind has rubbed off on me. So now it's just for me to go into that ring on Saturday and show as much of it as I can off.
Just lastly, you mentioned at the start, maybe you said from your own admission, people may not have taken you seriously at the start, and there was a lot of pressure on you with your dad's career. Campbell Hatton's also on the bill. What advice would you give to him starting off his career?
you know, I've been there and I've done it. I've walked the path, the exact path that he is now having to walk. And it's a tough one. You know, if you don't want it with all your heart, if you don't desperately want to become, you know, a great fighter, then it's ruthless. It's a tough path that he's going to walk down. So, you know, I hope he wants it as much as I wanted it, because that's what you need. You need that ambition and that grit and that determination to make it, because, you know, you're going to get compared to your world champion father from your first fight, from your debut fight, which is, you know, it's not fair and it's, you know, it's not right. But that's boxing for you. You know, you're in the sport, you're your father's son, there's always going to be comparisons. The best thing I can say is just be happy within yourself. You know, forget what everybody else says, the critics, the fans, the haters. Don't let anybody gas you up. Don't let anybody put you down. Just be happy in yourself. Do what you do to make yourself the best fighter you can be. And don't try and be anything you're not, because, you know, you'll get found out. Boxing is a very harsh world. It's a very harsh sport. You have to be truthful to yourself.
Appreciate that, Chris. All the best for Saturday night.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonathan. If we go to Carlos Toro for your question next, please.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. You know, you mentioned, you know, not wanting a flat performance per se in this upcoming fight, but when it comes to wanting that big summer fight and sort of shaking off that ring rust, given how your last fight was cut short, do you feel that getting rounds in is a bit of a more priority this time around?
You know, is it a priority? Lennox Lewis always says you don't get paid for overtime, which is true. You know, and so in that sense, you know, do you want to stay in the path of danger for longer than you have to? You know, I guess I'll make that decision on the night. But you know, it would be good to get some proper rounds in. But if I don't, you know, it is what it is. I have to get those rounds from sparring and from the training. But I think Marcus is a very solid dude, and he's going to be able to go in there and make it competitive. So I've got to be on my game 100%.
You mentioned how, you know, you were talking about how you sort of let the Gennady Golovkin fight slip through your fingers a couple of years ago. Do you feel now that there is maybe perhaps more urgency on your side to try and get those big fights that you mentioned, whether it be a Charlo or Murata or Andre or a Golovkin?
Absolutely. I'm 31 years old. You know, I'm in the prime of my life, but the prime doesn't last forever. You got to strike when the iron's hot. And I need these belts. I want these belts. So now is the time.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Thanks, Carlos. If we go to Devinder Pal from the Boxing Voice next, please.
Cheers, Dan. Hi, Chris. You okay?
Good. Thank you.
Good. Just looking at your latest fights at middleweight, would you ever consider going back up to super middle? And if you were to fight Gennady Golovkin, would you want to fight him at a catchweight, middleweight, super middleweight, or is it something that you're not bothered about?
Golovkin is a middleweight world champion. Why would I fight him at a catchweight? I won his belt. The only fight that I would move up a weight again for is Canelo. That fight I would move up a weight for, even though I'm not a super middleweight. That's the fight I'd move up for. But aside from that, you know, there's so many great fights to be had at middleweight. You know, there's no need to look at the super. I'm not a natural super middleweight. I have to gain weight. I have to eat breakfast the day of the weigh-in to make 168, to make 12 stones. So middleweight is where I'm comfortable at. It's my natural weight, and that's where I'm going to stay for the time being.
And just very finally as well, Chris, did you watch the Felix Cash performance on Saturday night against Denzel Bentley?
No, I didn't.
No problem. You won anyway. But listen, look, best of luck for yourself on Saturday night, and may the best man win.
Okay, appreciate that.
Cheers.
Thanks, Delinda. If we go to Ames from Boxing News TV for your two.
Ames here from Boxing News. Pleasure to meet you, Chris. I know you're. Hope you enjoyed the recent movie.
So, didn't hear what you said.
I said I know you're a Mortal Kombat fan, so I hope you enjoyed the recent movie that came out. If you've seen it.
I actually haven't watched it yet, but I've watched half of it, so don't tell me what happens in it.
No worries, no worries. A couple of questions for me. Chris, there are those in the boxing public who have been critical of the standard of some of the fighters you fought, this being the case here with Marcus Morrison, most notably Ty Booth, who believes you're fighting his leftovers, as he says. What's your thoughts on the criticisms about the opponent you picked for this weekend?
I didn't pick the opponent. My promoters picked the opponent. I agreed. You know, I'm not going to turn down a fight. I've been out of the ring for a long time. You know, anyone who's not happy with it, there's a big red button at the top of your remote, so you can put your finger on it, and it makes the screen go dark.
And with that said, there's been a lot of talk with you in your career about those big fights, the Canelos, Triple Gs, Charlos, as has been said, but you haven't been able to land that so far. Why, from your perspective, have those fights not materialized for you, the ones you've been campaigning for a number of years now? What is it from your end? Why haven't they happened?
There's only one fight that hasn't materialized, and that's Golovkin. You know, the other fights that I wanted were made. You know, I would have fought Charlo last year. They were lining that fight up. We fought on the same bill at the end of 2019, and then they were gonna build that fight for early 2020. COVID hit, and you know, that put a spanner in the works big time. But you know, boxing's back, so now these fights will happen.
All the best, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we've got time for two more before we let Chris leave. So if we go to Brett Redmond for your question, please.
It's done. Hi, Chris. I hope you're well.
Good, thank you.
No, I'll refer back to 2015. You know, you absolutely pummeled Gary Spike O'Sullivan at the O2 Arena and retired him on his stool. And straight away after the fight, the first thing we come out was we've heard, you know, you want to fight Gennady Golovkin. Everybody's scared of him. I want him. What actually was the fall down in that fight not happening? Because I know you guys were in deep negotiation, and then Kell Brooks stepped in afterwards.
Yeah, I think I mean, there's two sides to that story. You have, you know, the side of, you know, Kell Brooks stepping in and I guess taking a lot less money and demands for the fight, and making the fight easier for Eddie to make in England. And then you have another story which I heard from Eddie Hearn himself in an interview where you know, the fight was signed, ready to go, and at the last minute my dad said, we want one more thing. We want a painting or a picture that was up in the Matchroom office or something like that, and Barry Hearn said no, and that apparently destroyed the negotiations. That's what Eddie said. I've never heard that story until he told it, you know, I don't know how long ago, last year. At the end of the day, the fight, it doesn't really matter. The fight didn't happen, and you know, we have to rectify that. We have to make that fight happen, because, you know, in the middleweight division, I don't think there's anybody, you know, I don't think there's anybody that the boxing fans want more to fight Golovkin than me. They know what I'm going to bring. They know I'm going to go for him. They know I'm not going in there to lay down and survive. So, yeah, we have to be made this year.
Okay, Chris, great. Thanks very much for that. Good luck for Saturday, and I hope you land that fight in the future.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, got time for one more. Just apologies for anyone who hasn't had a chance to ask yet, but we're on a bit of a tight schedule. If we go to Dona Corby next, please.
Hi, Chris. Great to speak to you. Apologies if I'm repeating something here. I joined in a little bit late, but what is the relationship, the dynamic like when it comes to training between your dad and your new coach, Roy Jones?
You know, my father wasn't around for the year and a half that I was with Roy, so there wasn't a dynamic there. You know, it's just me and Roy. You know, my father's happy that I found a coach that I vibe with, and that, you know, we gel and we understand each other, and you know, he's behind it 100%.
And you talk about wanting the Triple G fight, and you know, that being the ultimate goal for you. Do you believe? I read somewhere that you said that the 2021 is the year to do that. Do you believe that that's a fight that could possibly take place with fans here in the UK?
I mean, that's the dream, that's the goal. You know, especially for British boxing fans to have that fight over here. Whether that can be done, you know, that's down to the promotion. You know, obviously he fights a lot in the States, but you know, I would most definitely be campaigning to get that fight here in England for the British fans.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, really appreciate your time there. We'll see you in the bubble later this week. Take care.
Hey, listen, if anyone didn't get to ask a question, you know, I'm not doing anything right now, so you know, if you want to do another 5 minutes, you can do that. If there's anyone that hasn't got to ask a question, is what I'm saying.
Guys, if anyone hasn't had a chance to ask a question, if you either email myself or Chris from Sowland, who's on the call, we'll try and sort out a bit of time with Chris after this, okay? So just drop me an email. I'll pop it in the chat in the corner there, and then we'll try and get that sorted out tonight for you. Okay, thanks, Chris. Cool. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Cheers.